Lindenhurst is a village of 27,000 on the south shore of Long Island, New York. These are the people who grew up there and their stories. Everyone I know is from Lindenhurst. So what's a normal day in the life of a town historian?
There is no normal day, you know. Right now, I am very grateful to have a couple of interns who are spending time in my office. So you kind of start off and it's, oh my goodness, what are they going to do today? And are they all set? And they tend to be very quiet. They'll ask lots of great questions, and find myself just rambling with them. And they're kind of like, can I just get to work instead of, hearing all these other stories? So there's that, and there's this morning I went and helped at the Historical Society in Babylon Village to, I'm helping them with their archives. And then I'm like, I really need to get back to that second Lindenhurst book, which is what I'm feverishly working on now. And I can honestly say that it's all usually a very good day, because I look up at the clock and I'm like, oh, it's 5 o'clock already.
Yeah.
Like, I have to actually stop what I'm doing and go home, and live the rest of my life. So it's usually pretty good. And you never know what questions you're going to get.
And so there's like a museum within the town hall.
Yes. So I'm at Old Town Hall. Have you ever been to our building?
Don't believe so. No.
Okay.
I don't believe so either, but it's on Main Street in Babylon Village.
Yes, right across
Yeah.
the street from either Argyle Theater or Ferraro's
yes.
Liquor Store, depending on your perspective.
I've definitely paid a parking ticket there once or twice.
Well, actually, our building is not the one to pay parking tickets, which is why it's so confusing to people. We are confused for the town hall on Sunrise Highway, for the village hall that's down the block, for the Village Historical Society that's also down the block. But it's because we're in this big brick, impressive looking building.
That's the old town hall, right?
Correct. It's big. It sits up on all these steps. It's got these huge stone columns. And I'll tell students, it looks impressive, right? It looks like it's supposed to be important.
It looks official, yeah.
It's built that way. It's
Right.
built to be that. It's just that it has not been the place to come for, your standard government functions for 65 years, which is why we're the old town hall.
Gotcha.
But that's okay. People that come and find us by mistake find that we do our best to help them find where they're supposed to be, even if that's the town of Islip.
Right.
We offer them bathrooms, we offer them air conditioning. So if you're going to come into the wrong place, it's the right place to be for us to help you, because we say that we spend about 15% of our day directing people someplace else.
But you are a Lindenhurst native, correct?
Only technically. I try to be specific. I graduated from Lindenhurst High School. I was born in Wisconsin, grew up in Westchester, came to West Babylon when I was in the 10th grade, moved to Lindenhurst in 11th grade, and graduated Lindenhurst High School, where I happen to have met my husband.
Okay. So what prompted the move from the Midwest?
Well, we lived in Yonkers and Harlem by the time that I was 3 years old. My father's a minister, which was the moving around. And we lived in Mount Vernon, through 9th grade. And then I moved to the suburbs. And
was that a culture shock for you?
It was.
Yeah.
It was. I met all of these, I'm not going to say that I didn't go to school with suburban kids, but these were different suburban kids. You both seem a little young for my generation. So, I moved out here and everything was mint, which was a phrase I had never heard before.
Yeah.
They were, I went to school with people that were lower middle class, economically. Out here, everybody had cable. Everybody had, just all the trappings of the 80s. So it was a little something to get used to. And then I left for many years. And I came back in the late 90s. And and I've been here ever since. It's weird for me because I've been back for 25 years
Yeah.
here, but I still don't feel like I'm from here. I kind of do now, but it's a weird clarification.
Yeah, yeah. So were you always kind of a history buff as a kid, or like what were some of your interests growing up?
I was immersed in books, and my preference was for nonfiction. I loved biographies. Um, and I did love history. And in fact, when I was a senior at Lindenhurst High School and I was applying, I don't remember what group it was, so I'm not going to pick on anybody, but I applied for a scholarship. And I was there and I was like, I really like history. I think I'd like to study history, be a historian. And they were like, why would you want to do that? And they were all a group of old men. For all I know, they were the same age that I am now. And they were like, well, why would you want to do that? No, that's not how you make money. That's not a way to live, right? And I didn't think about it for a long time. And it was something that I remembered a few years ago. And I actually went to school and studied sociology, just as useless as studying history. But I will plug that sociology helps you understand the world around you, which I think is what appealed to me. And being a historian now is actually my third career. Graduating with a degree in sociology qualifies you to work for bookstores.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is what I did for 7 years.
Just like my creative writing degree.
Yeah. See, there you go. I mean, these things are good for our souls. They're not good for our pocketbooks. Okay. Right. So, I'm not going to, there is true value in it. But anybody who wants to go into social sciences or something like that, I tell them you have to be prepared to, struggle financially. Yeah. So, I became a paralegal. And I worked for some wonderful people and everything. And while I was doing that, I started getting my master's degree in library and information science. And that's kind of what led me to the town, because I did my internship with the previous town historian. And 17 years ago, I was hired as the historical archivist, and it turned into me being the town historian. So I feel like it's all added up for me. My love of nonfiction, even working for bookstores, the idea of how to arrange mugs and T-shirts and stuff like that for sale is not too dissimilar than putting an exhibit together. And then, of course, even my legal background about understanding things like copyright or deeds of gift and things like that. So I do give this lecture to like every student who comes through, that I'm like, everything you do adds up, to who you are eventually. So you can't look at me now and say, oh, I want to do what you do. Well, you're going to have the same 30 years of experience that I've had to lead you here, and whatever your experiences are going to lead you to the path, for you. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And writing an email is a talent that not everyone has. You realize that, like, even working in the corporate world, like, really, did you you didn't use a period there? Okay.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. But I do have a blog, which I've shared a number of things on, and I go back and I read it and I go, wow, what was I thinking about then? Because I write the way I talk, I kind of ramble, and for me it works, because there's bits of pieces every day. We get the strangest questions, and some of them are easy to answer. Some of us just required us to find an old phone book or something. But we never know what we're going to find until we look for it. And no matter what the information is, it matters to somebody. We might be just answering something about some long lost relative, or maybe it's just about that person's house. Sometimes we answer questions that relate to something that everybody's familiar with, but whatever it is, the information matters.
What's the process of finding like a historical artifact or some sort of information like that? For somebody who asks for it?
It's all different. There was a guy who was looking for well, I'll use his name. His name was Michael McCarty, McCarty. And he was looking for a long lost relative, probably like a third great uncle who had been a blacksmith here in Babylon Village. And he found the guy in the census and he's like, I want to know what happened to him. And I'm like, okay, well, now I want to know what happened to him too. All right. So we go back and forth. He lives out of state. And I start searching the local newspaper. And I'm like, okay, they really weren't referring to people as Mike back then. So he was Michael, or, trying searching blacksmithing and stuff like that. But McCarty is not a name that I'm familiar with. And long story short, I ended up searching the guy through a misspelling of his name. I started searching McCarthy, and I found everything I needed to know. Like, here's this guy, here's your name is the same as this relatives of yours. I ended up finding out everything I could have wanted. I found out where he moved to after Babylon, that he had passed, what year he passed away in. This guy was so happy, because for people that are searching for something, and I deal with a lot of people with family history, they've found a lot of information. They really feel like they're there, but they've got those little bits that are missing. If I can fill in those little bits, yes, I'm proud of myself, but I'm very happy for them, and that's why I'm really willing that even if I'm not the right person that they need to speak to, maybe they need Smithtown, maybe they need someplace else, I would rather take 5 minutes and talk to them and help them find the right place, because finding someone that can answer your questions is not easy. So, that was a simple one. But when I get a lot of, I want to know more about my house. Now, sometimes that is preceded by, I think I have a ghost. And, so I want to know more about my house. And I have never felt, unearthly presences, for better or for worse, for those people that do, that's fine. It just hasn't been my experience. But, people, I tell them, I don't keep bad events listed by address. If you think there's something, you need to know about the people that lived there. And I do have a Native American friend, and this is our joke. I get the people that call and they'll say, I want to know if my house is on Native American ground. And I say, do you live on Long Island? Right. And they say yes. And I say, we all are, yes, it is. My friend loves that one. And so I'm just kind of like, well, your house is only 70 years old. But if you think that an event happened there, well, find out the names of the people that lived in it, and then we'll search their names, like police blotters. Yeah. People are concerned about the ghosts, but they're not concerned enough to do enough work on their own. So I don't get very many people that come back with that. But it is amazing how much we can access. I am known in some circles for debunking local myths, taking a long-standing story and saying, well, that's not quite true. And I try not to criticize my predecessors, because they did not have access to what I do from their fingertips. I can sit on my couch with my laptop and I have access to things that they would have had to go into New York City for, or right away.
Your job existed pre-internet, I'm assuming, right?
No. Okay. I started in 2006.
But there was a historian before that, is what I'm saying. Somebody had to do that job without the internet.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. People that were, literally having to go to the dusty rooms and find,
rifle through old files. Yeah.
But the
Indiana Joneses.
Yes. But what's on the internet has been put there by somebody. And so the example that I'll give is that the first time that I started putting together the list of casualties that the town of Babylon had from the Vietnam War, it's 60 some men who died that are connected to the town of Babylon. When I first started doing it, I maybe found about 5 pictures of them. The other year, when I put together a blog post profiling all of them, I had a picture for every one of them. So, we complain about the internet, all that kind of stuff. People are putting more and more information out there that is useful if we look in the right places. So yes, it is good to be a historian in the 21st century.
So you referenced the Signal a lot in this book.
Yes.
That was a local newspaper.
Yes, the South Side Signal.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to save space in a book, you call it the Signal.
The Signal. Yeah.
Yeah, it started in July of 1869, and it is considered the first newspaper in what would become the town of Babylon, because the town separates from Huntington in 1872. And Henry Livingston, who started the newspaper, is largely credited with, you know, being the owner and editor of the newspaper, and he wanted a separation of the town. So he wrote lots of and published lots of articles supporting the separation. Some people have said that he kind of led to the whole reason why the town wanted to separate, but it seems like it had been happening for a long time. So I love Henry, but he doesn't get all the credit. He gets some of the credit. But yeah, the Southside Signal newspaper ran from 1869 to 1920, and it is now fully searchable. And that is my go-to. I am reading that newspaper every day in some way, searching somebody's name, whether it was misspelled or not, Mr. McCarty. And it's when it came to the Lindenhurst book, that newspaper started before Breslau did. So it was right there at the start of it. I can't say that there was a lot of news to tell every week, right. But they told what was there, and man, was that important for doing that research.
There was one later on called the Star.
The Lindenhurst Star.
Lindenhurst Star, yeah, which is searchable on the Lindenhurst Library website.
Yes, it is. Yeah, thank goodness for them. The Signal ran until 1920, and there had been a small run of something called the Babylon Budget. Didn't last very long. Aren't too many issues out anymore. In 1910, the Babylon Leader started. So for those last 10 years, the Signal had some competition. The Babylon Leader continued, and they're the same company that printed the Lindenhurst Star, which is kind of interesting. So much like newspapers would end up doing later, the bulk of the information was the same, but then they would, you know, have Babylon Village specific and the Babylon Leader and right. Lindenhurst specific. And that's been a game changer. I was just on there today looking for the Lindenhurst Star.
And yeah, that was also a huge time in innovation as far as printing and getting mass mailings out. You know?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Right, so let's get into the book.
Sure.
From Breslau to Lindenhurst. So this is by you and Anna Yeager. Is my pronouncing that right?
Yeager, yes.
Yeager. Who is specifically the Lindenhurst town historian?
Lindenhurst village historian.
Okay.
Yes.
And was a teacher at Rawl for
many
years. Yeah.
Yes, she was. And she's been the village historian since I think 2014, something like that. I've known her ever since I got into, you know, the town historian's office. And most of the pictures are from the Lindenhurst Historical Society's collections.
Yeah, I was going to mention that next. It's not really written like other history books in that it's like a chapter of text and then like a bunch of pictures. It's more pictures and a big caption underneath.
That is the way that Images America are. So Arcadia Publishing has a few different series, and that's one of the longest ones that they've run, and they specifically want you to have a picture and then 50 to 75 words as a caption. So they want there to be 117 pages of photographs.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, Arcadia Publishing back in 2018. That is their format for these type of books is a picture with a big blurb underneath.
Yes, if you want, they also own History Press, which is where they do, you know, full text chapters with a couple of photos.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the pictures are awesome. What was it like compiling all these with Anna?
Well, what actually happened was that my office decided to help the Historical Society out by taking every one of their photos, cataloging them, scanning them. We created what we call picture books for them, using just regular binders and sheet protectors. We made a page for every photo. If it was a postcard, we showed you the front and the back of it. And then we put all the information that we knew about it, because really, to preserve photos, you need to put them away and leave them alone. And so like there's probably 30 binders right inside the Historical Society for people to look through. So that's really where it started. 4,000 some images or whatever. And the idea was, yeah, we should do a book. And as we're looking through them, it was like, wait a minute, if we try to go from 1870 to 2018 or whenever it is that we published it, we're going to miss out on putting so many of these pictures in, because we'll have to choose through so many. We'll have to weed a lot out. So that's how we came to the decision of doing 1870 to 1923, and 1923 being the year that the village incorporated. Yeah. That seemed to work. So their photos are amazing, as you can see in that book.
They're really cool.
With the homes chapter, the idea, I love all the families that were standing out in front of the houses. I haven't really been able to prove it, but I think that, there must have been like a traveling photographer who would schedule with people. And especially if we're talking about German immigrants, a lot of them. And these are pictures that they're going to send to their family in Europe. Yeah. Here's not only us and the kids, but hey, look at how prosperous we are. We've got this nice house here in Breslau.
And not everyone owned a camera.
No, that was not quite yet. I had to explain to a high school intern the other day that 15 years ago, we videotaped oral history interviews using a camera and cassette tapes, before our phones could capture video. And wow, did I feel old.
Doesn't seem like that long ago, right?
No.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like the architecture, back to that, it's crazy. Like in such a short amount of time, you can see like from the 1800s to the 1900s how much more modern the buildings start to look.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And in all the books and projects that I've done, many times what we miss are business pictures and stuff like that, because not every business owner snaps a picture of their business every couple of years and deposits it with the Historical Society. What is great are parade photos. Your fire departments, your veterans organizations, they take the pictures, and so they'll have somebody that stands in one place, and they're taking all these great pictures of their members and stuff. I'm like, I'm sorry, I need to look in the backgrounds, please.
Yeah.
And they can be really, really awesome.
Yeah, it's cool. And I mean, as far as businesses go in Lindenhurst, obviously it's been known for alcohol forever. Beer was a big export, but also cigars. I just learned from this book.
Yes. Well, that is why the cover of the book is the way that it is. We knew that had to be the picture, because not only is it's this group of people and they're holding glasses of beer, and at least one person has a cigar, but there are musicians in the center, which means that they were ready to party.
Yeah.
There were a lot of
2023.
Yes, it is.
Right.
There were, I guess that before there was television, before there was radio, everybody needed something to do. Yeah. And, but there were a lot of musicians, they could have been house carpenters or whatever, but, they were known to play on the weekends and stuff like that. So yes, I really do feel that was the best picture we could have ever put on the cover of it. Now we have the pressure of what we're going to do for the next book, which is intended to cover, 1923 up to 2023.
Yeah. But back to that time period, I would imagine also Prohibition threw a huge wrench into all of this.
For some people.
Yeah. For the local economy. Yeah.
So there have been times when I have specifically looked at Prohibition. Okay. And you mentioned like the Lindenhurst Star. Okay. Mm-hmm. Great example of a local paper. Local papers were only ever published once a week, very much like the Babylon Beacon still is. But your New York City papers, New York Herald Tribune, Brooklyn Daily Eagle, those kinds were being published every day. So people could get daily news arriving at the railroad, in between the weekly publications. So, for example, I read in the Brooklyn paper that so-and-so from Lindenhurst was arrested for rum running, and he's going to be, federally prosecuted and everything. Not a single word in the local paper. Okay. And this is one of the things as being a local historian is we always say you got to check multiple sources, because you don't know who's reporting is going to be skewed. Two reporters can visit the same event and they'll go back to their newspapers and write it in a different way. But there was plenty of it going on. But let's say you're the editor of the newspaper and the guy that you get your stuff from just got arrested. Well, you're not putting it in the paper. There are plenty of stories that have been told around. Baloney John's was a big one. I'm quite sure that the resourceful people around here continued doing what they felt they needed to do and just kept it quiet.
Yeah. And also ice was not easy to access at that point. I forget his name, but one of the brewery owners he bought the rights to all the ice basically. Was it Feller?
Yeah. I think it was Feller because people go to Feller's Pond and they're like, oh, the ducks and everything like that. And I go by and I go, man, this used to freeze so much that they'd collect it.
They chopped it up. Yeah.
If you want ice in August, you have to collect it in February, which is wild to me.
Yeah.
But, that's what you do. If you ever go through the census, you'll find that the majority of people that lived out here, their occupation, men, are put down as farmers. Okay, fine. That means that you have a plot of land and that you grow some stuff. But if you're a farmer, you know how to do a lot of things. And the thing is that you come over here and you help your brother with this business and that one. And when they're calling for, 20 guys to come cut ice out of the pond, you go and you do it. So
they all knew how. Yeah.
Yes. And it's a disservice that, we look at them every 10 years in the census and see, oh, farmer. Well, that's a big definition.
Yeah, it was essentially homesteading.
Yes.
What they call it now, yeah.
There you go. And this was a small place. We're talking about 42,000 people in the entire town in 1940. And then it almost increases by 6 times in 20 years. So we are talking about a small place that up until, the 1950s, this was the country. Everybody who wants to take a fall weekend and go out east, whether it's the North Fork or the South Fork, that's what people used to do for our area.
This was the sticks. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Another funny thing that I marked off in the book, a couple of episodes ago, John very aptly recited the names of the streets going up Wellwood Avenue, but a lot of the street names were different. Like the numbered streets near me where I grew up, they all had, proper names like Ketchum Avenue and West Broadway and Robert Bloom Avenue. Like they weren't numbered back then.
So I think some of those the street names continue in the other towns like Copeg and Amityville. If you follow the blocks down,
Ketchum, yeah. For sure.
Yep, some of them do. So Lindenhurst is extremely unique in that when they start in 1870, they assigned these German names, right? Mm-hmm. Then they're like, wait a minute, we should, we are proud Americans. And especially come 1890, they changed the name to Lindenhurst. Mm-hmm. They're like, we need to adopt American names. Then we get home delivery of mail. And the postmaster in Lindenhurst decides that it's going to be too difficult to have different names, so he numbers them. Okay, so really with most of the streets in the heart of Lindenhurst, I keep a chart of street names, and it's like so many of those streets have had 3 names. Now you realize the county streets, right? Allegheny, Broome, Clinton, Delaware. Yeah. Those were different names, and he went alphabetical of the counties.
Right.
So, and yeah, Robert Bloom, I love that. They didn't just make it Bloom Street.
No,
It was
the
a whole
full name,
person
yeah.
said Robert Bloom.
Nobody wants my full name on a street, I can tell you that much.
You got some pretty Italian street names in Copiague by the church over there. There's like Spucci, yeah.
Well, that's Marconiville. And
Uh-huh.
those were all named in honor of explorers, inventors, scientists. But have you ever seen one that some people call Pioxy Street?
Yeah, Pio the 13th or whatever. Yeah.
11th. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And we used to have a Michelangelo, but apparently somewhere in the 50s, I think it was, the people on that street petitioned, and it's now Park Avenue.
Right.
What's another one? Oh, and it's not Prince Chico, as in Chico. It's Prince Chigo. I think it's still spelled wrong.
And also Wellwood himself, his name was misspelled on the Long Island Railroad timetables.
Yes.
And he just kept it that way.
Well, you know, I think that it kind of went back and forth. But when we published that book, I had to give specific instructions to the publisher. It's 1 L if it's a name, it's 2 L's if it's a street, because both are correct.
Right.
Depending on your situation. Have you seen the historic marker that's in front of the Historical Society? South end of OLPH, little gray building.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the historic marker that commemorates the city of Breslau.
Mhm.
And purposely, Abby Wellwood's name is first, because the whole time that, you know, I was starting to get to know Lindenhurst, all I ever heard about was Thomas Wellwood and Charles Schleier. Well, here's the thing. When you really start to look into things, Abby is the one that had the money. And when she bought the property, we're talking huge swaths of property, everything that is now Lindenhurst Village and, you know, at least half of what's now North Lindenhurst, she buys it under her own name. But I don't know if it's the law or just the convention of the time when they start to go selling these. And remember, they're selling, you know, to all these New York City dwellers, you know, here's your 100 by 100. The deeds were from her and Thomas. So they both signed the deeds to them. But I am determined to keep Abby Wellwood's name in local history, which is why her name comes first on there. Not only is it alphabetical and ladies came first, but I have started my campaign to declare that Wellwood Avenue is not named for Thomas Wellwood, but rather Abby and Thomas Wellwood.
Yeah,
So,
Thomas gets all the glory. Yeah.
yes, he did. And the criticism. Now, you know why they changed the name?
For Lindenhurst in general, or just his name?
From Breslau to Lindenhurst.
Was World War I a big factor?
No, but thank you for bringing that up, because that's one of the local myths.
Oh.
So really it wasn't until about 25 years later, 27 years later, really, you know, World War I, well, starting in 1914, we don't get involved until 1917, but there are two things from the 1880s that are said to have led to the name change. The one was that while Abby and Thomas Wellwood were partners with Charles Schleier in this whole Breslau market to German immigrants, you know, everything, they had lawsuits against one another starting within a couple of years. Debates over, you know, who owned what. Apparently both of them were collecting taxes. You know, let's talk about the poor landowners here right now, you know, about getting caught in the middle of it. But they were in court for 12 or 15 years going back and forth. So that's the one thing, you know, that every time there's a New York City headline about, you know, more lawsuits in Breslau. But the real big thing that happened was a double murder up off of what's now in North Lindenhurst. You've got the book there. It's the Scheidweilers. I can never remember the husband's name, but I know the wife's name was Christina. They're discovered dead in their house. His son-in-law comes and finds them. So again, it's bad enough that they've had these headlines about the lawsuits between Wellwood and Schleier. Now there's this murder. Breslau murder goes unsolved. Breslau, it's still unsolved, right? And it's that combined with this growing sense that we are no longer Germans, we are Americans, and that we have more Irish and other, you know, cultural groups coming into Lindenhurst. You know, we're not saying that this is a German only place, that kind of, all of that put together leads them to say that they want to call it Lindenhurst, which of course, you know, Hurst is a German name for community.
Right.
So we couldn't get too far away from it.
Right.
But yeah,
it needed a rebrand nonetheless. Yeah.
Yes, and you know, it seems to have worked.
Great. So yeah, as you said, you're working on the second book. Is there a timeline for when that will be released, or how far into it are you?
As soon as possible.
Yeah.
I'm about 6 months behind. This will be my fourth book with Arcadia, and I understand the process. And I kind of, what we did with the other one is that we wrote it and then we went to Arcadia and said, yeah, we just need like 2 more weeks and we'll be done. And they were a little surprised, but I'm kind of like, I know how this goes already.
Mm-hmm.
The first book I ever did was the Kopeg book. And you need like 200 photographs to do one of these. And I think I maybe had 60. And I was like, oh yeah, you know, 4 months, I'll be done. I was sitting at people's kitchen tables. I had this laptop and scanner that I was taking around with me. I mean, thank goodness for everybody who helped me out. And yes, I made my deadline, you know, by the skin of my teeth. And I was like, I'm never doing that again. I know how to write one of these. I know what the format is. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to finish our manuscript by the end of the summer. And then we'll put it to Arcadia. And I can't guarantee they'd be able to do it before Christmas, yeah, because it gets pretty tight. But I'm going to say early 2024.
Great. So just fast forwarding to today, I don't know how much time you spend in Lindenhurst specifically, but as you know, like the village has really come up and businesses are popping up left and right now. Are there any businesses you like to frequent or that you've visited recently that you enjoyed?
To be honest with you, I don't leave my house when I can help it. My in-laws are in Lindenhurst, and that's where I'm going to go more frequently. But I loved going to Restoration Kitchen before the pandemic.
The Oddfellows Hall.
Yes, thank you. It's not 100F. It's the International Order of Odd Fellows. Thank you very much. Yes, one of the oldest buildings around, and I love that people get to go in it now. And well, actually, when I go to Lindenhurst, I'm more likely to stop by Legislator McCaffrey's office. Everybody's talking about Belfast. I haven't been there yet. But I was, not this summer, but last summer when we were still celebrating the 150th anniversary of the town of Babylon. We did a couple of the Wednesdays on Wellwood. Are they doing that again this summer?
Yeah. Not as frequently, I don't think, but they are.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That was fantastic. I really have to give them credit. All the organizers and everything, because we were amazed at how many people we saw. And we brought these grids, which thankfully fit in the back of my car, and we put up these felt boards, and we're showcasing the 150th anniversary of the town, and then we highlighted all these pictures of Lindenhurst and stuff like that. And all of our historical society friends came down and helped us. But that was great. I had some awesome empanadas, now that I'm remembering. Mm-hmm. And I think it's great. What was it? Right before the pandemic, it was November of 2019 was the 100th anniversary of the War Memorial in the middle of Wellwood Avenue at Hoffman.
Yeah. Now the obelisk, is that what we're calling it?
Let's go with the obelisk. It's topped with the bird. Eagle. Yeah. That was a lot of fun because I think we did the same route that they did in 1919 when they dedicated it. We started on West John Street where there used to be a fire department. And then I got to wear my 1919 replica outfit. You, I got to tell you, if you ever need people to dress up in period clothes, the Lindenhurst Historical Society are your people.
Okay.
Okay, those ladies, they don their wigs, they don their, their mink stoles, they pull the stuffs out of the archives. They're awesome. They really are.
Good to know. Yeah, it's cool that, because for so long, like as far as events like that go, there was only the Oktoberfest in October and the Lindenhurst, the OLPH feast. That was really it for the entire year. And forget outdoor dining or anything like that. There was none of that for so long.
Yeah. Oh, when I saw that they had added the picnic tables and the string lights over by the gazebo park, that was adorable. That really was. I think that those are some of the positive things that we took out of COVID, that we could do that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll ask you, because I'm interested in your answer to this as a historian.
Okay.
If you could describe Lindenhurst to someone who's never been there, what would you tell them?
Oh, a little bit of everything. I mean, for people who love the water, for people who love sports, for people who love food, and people who want to take the train anywhere, I think that that's Lindenhurst. I have become describing myself as a South Shore girl. That what isn't near you being down here? Everything I want is within a couple of miles when I decide to leave my house, that is. So yeah, I think you're kind of in. There was a big campaign in the 80s, and the town of Babylon was described at the heart of it all. They had this cheesy little heart and everything like that. I think you can find the
jingle. Yeah.
Yes. And I think that still applies, that we are close enough to everything being here. And I know that people from Lindenhurst are proud to be from Lindenhurst. I'm, they're like, no, this is my place. This is where I want to stay. Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of other Long Island towns don't have like a main downtown area at all.
No.
Or anywhere that you could walk to. So
a lot of them are trying to create ones that were never there.
Yeah.
Babylon Village, we talk about it a lot. That Main Street and Deer Park Avenue. With Lindenhurst, you've got Wellwood Avenue there on both sides of the tracks.
Yeah.
Which can be difficult. Same
South
thing with
side's
Copeg.
still a little vacant, but we're getting there.
Not for long. Not for long. Well, I think Lindenhurst got Rumors, right?
Rumors, yep.
The gift shop. That was always a great one here in Babylon Village. I'm very happy that they landed over
and now
there.
The Great South Bay Brewery is moving into the old bank building, which was vacant for many years. Yeah.
No, the Chase Bank?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
yes.
Great South Bay is going in there.
Okay. Where were they?
Bayshore, and I think there's another location now too.
Okay.
So they're spreading, but yeah, there's
that building has been sitting there waiting for the right people. So very happy to hear that.
Yeah.
And if they're listening to this, they should get with the Historical Society, because we will help them know all about the history of their building.
Great. So thanks so much for coming on. Just let everyone know where they can find you, your blog, and where to purchase your books online.
All the books are available on Amazon. There is Copeg, there is Babylon Village, and there is From Breslau to Lindenhurst. They keep getting better each time I go. So yes, I can say that From Breslau to Lindenhurst is the best one thus far. They're Amazon and Barnes & Noble. My blog is tobhistorian.blogspot.com. It's a blogger site. And also check out townofbabylon.com, find the historic services page, and we have all the information from the 150th anniversary, where we profiled every community. We gave Lindenhurst Village and the hamlet of North Lindenhurst their own identities in there, because they each deserve that. And that's where you can contact me there as well.
Awesome.
You guys are doing a great job. Thank you.